Wagner PMC attacked Estonia, Ukraine is losing Pokrovsk, Putin wants to hand over power to his son, propagandists in Russia have started to universally humiliate the Russian army, and children of women who have been assaulted will be given to childless couples. An idea from a deputy. Geran toys, crazy priests, and more. Hello everyone, this is Karina Klishun, and you're watching the program Vitrende. I've gathered a lot of interesting news for you, and believe me, we'll have plenty to discuss today. So let's get started. Let's start our episode with some good news. Last night in two apps, locals heard explosions because the SBU and SBS did a great job targeting Russian tankers and the oil terminal.
There was a hit, red smoke over there. They just hit from here, the smoke rose, and another one flew off somewhere over there. The air defense was working, but it didn't do shit. It's cold. The air defense was just firing, you could hear the shots.
As it became known later, one vessel was destroyed and 4 more tankers were damaged. Strikes like these are even more effective than sanctions. The Wagner PMC has come back to life, and they've decided to terrorize Estonia. According to Estonia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a Russian border patrol boat with a Wagner flag was found on the Narva River. They say it's unclear whether they're bypassing towards St. Petersburg or trying to break into Estonia. They've already sent a request to Russia, but it's unlikely they'll get a meaningful response. Meanwhile, the Russians are trying to advance on the front by any means possible. But one of those methods isn't working. I'm talking about the FAP now. There have been more and more reports lately that the modernization of the FAP hasn't gone very well for the Russians. Ukrainian soldiers recorded how a missile literally ricocheted off the ground on impact and landed somewhere they weren't aiming. A weapon with no analogs, as they say. But they're not relying on weapons, they're relying on sheer numbers of manpower. And with such numbers, they're managing to push into Pokrovsk. There has been an increase in assault operations there. The Russians have managed to block Ukrainian logistics. It has already become known that Russia is suffering colossal losses in the Pokrovsk direction. That is why the Russian General Staff decided to deploy the 155th Marine Brigade there. But among these troops, there were ATESH agents. As a result, a sabotage took place there. The Russians from the 155th Brigade set their own equipment on fire. So the Russians themselves delayed the offensive and saved their own lives. I know that many of you are watching us from outside Ukraine, and I'm curious to know which country you're watching this video from. I know there are a lot of people here from Europe and even from Russia. Do you support the Russian Federation, or are you one of the reasonable ones? Write in the comments. I'd be interested to learn about the geography of the viewers and your opinions on what's happening. Meanwhile, Russian propagandists are starting to whine one after another that Russia is advancing slowly and losing a lot. For example, here's one of the Russian military experts complaining about the slow pace and getting angry, saying that during World War II they reached Berlin in 4 years. But here they can't even take Donbas.
We have stated that we are not changing the objectives that have been set. But in my opinion, if you're interested, it seems to me that everything is heading toward Russia probably going for what they call a deal. A deal always involves compromises, and compromises mean stepping back from the goals and intentions that were previously declared. Apparently, we are in for, it seems we have been forced to give up on some of our objectives. And why is that? Because Konstantin Vladimirovich was right when he said that it's already been 3.5 years. He's right, it was revealed, honestly. Back then, after about 4 years, we were already in Berlin. Where are we now? Only 20% of the territory has been liberated. Well, we have to weigh things up. Apparently, we've done something wrong. And
here, Z propagandist Kalashnikov openly states that Russia will lose. And the hatred of Ukrainians towards Russians will never be erased.
So what will we end up with? Even if we manage to negotiate some kind of exchange and get the remaining part of the Donetsk region, the situation will still be very ambiguous overall. A very untriumphant outcome. In fact, the goals that were set for us back in February of 2022, remember, will end up unachieved. What's more, on the territory of what remains of Ukraine, so to speak, eternal flames will be lit dedicated to this war. There will be some kind of memorials with tridents, with the names of the fallen. There you go. It will be called the War for Independence. And there people will be raised, the youth will be brought up in hatred with feelings of revenge and retribution. You know, this is actually a kind of cultural and civilizational defeat. We kept appealing to memory. The Great Patriotic War. It turns out we weren't able to do what our ancestors, who are actually very close to us, managed to accomplish.
Looks like the playbooks have stopped working. Is the brain really waking up? News from the land of crooked mirrors never ceases to amaze. In the Russian Federation, the head of an organization defending family values has been detained. She is accused of child trafficking. This concerns Irina Rudnitskaya, the head of an organization that supported foster families and worked on preventing orphanhood. At the same time, Rudnitskaya herself was responsible for 12 children aged 3 to 17. An investigation has now begun. But there, each one is worse than the last. For example, a Sverdlovsk deputy proposed giving the children of raped women to childless couples. Supposedly, this way, both the raped women who don't want the children and the childless families would be satisfied. And he says this openly.
Everything related to rape is actually a rather small number of cases. And here, I think the issue needs to be resolved on an individual basis. Even in this case, I think that if it's psychologically impossible for the woman, but a doctor psychologist explains that this is a living life, and today there are others who need this living life. I want to tell you that in our country, for a number of reasons, there are currently a lot of childless couples who cannot have children. And the waiting list to adopt small, healthy children is very long. And I think that maybe here we need to take a different approach. Yes, to talk with the woman that maybe she doesn't want this child in the future, but this child can live in another
family. Anything at all, as long as everyone gives birth. Friends, I know you have something to say about this, so I'm looking forward to your thoughts in the comments. You know, I'm always available, I read everything and reply to your comments. And don't forget to like this video, it's very important to us. I remembered Deputy Bogi and immediately thought of an Orthodox priest who clearly hates women. Priest Strutsky stated that a woman cannot exist without men.
The scariest thing is that we men go crazy, but women, they help people. Because she is meant to be a part of a man. She was taken from him and must be joined to him. She cannot exist on her own.
But his speech didn't stop at women. He decided to insult all Russians while he was at it. He says they're all donkeys with a stomach instead of a soul.
If you feed a donkey everything it wants, the donkey won't carry anything anywhere. Absolutely nothing. So it turns out, you see, that right now is a time when people are feeding their donkeys. These donkeys don't want to do anything. They don't need any amusements because all of that goes against the donkey's stomach. The donkey says, I want to rest. Eat, drink, and have fun. That's how it is, my dear ones. That's why Christianity is fading away right now. Why? Because you see, there are more and more of these donkeys, and they simply don't want anything except to satisfy their own stomachs. And they just want to lie down on some straw, rest, and scratch themselves. And
how does he feed himself? By God's blessing. Well, by the way, priests themselves want to fill their stomachs properly, just like their wallets. And despite all the humiliations from the Russian Orthodox Church, they demand that more money be brought to the church.
The higher the class of the car, so to speak, the higher the status, the less likely a person is to donate, usually. Of course, there are all sorts of exceptions, including some unusual ones. But as a rule, 95%, 99% of the time, the more expensive the car, the less a person donates. Let's say someone arrives in some old rusty Zhiguli, asks to have it blessed, and by today's standards puts in, say, 5,000. Why so much? Your car itself is worth 5,000. There's just no soul in it. But a person who arrives in a car worth several million donates 100 rubles.
That's the Russian church for you. As is the country, so are its priests.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate in the media that Putin wants to rule until 2050 and only then hand over power to his son. After resetting the term limits in 2020, Putin can remain in office until 2036, and then he plans to secure his political legacy and essentially create a new dynasty. This is reported by the British tabloid Daily Star, citing information from Russian investigative journalist Ilya Davlyachin. Here's what's interesting. Will he even live that long? As long as Putin is in power, the brazen deputies and governors will stay in power too. Remember the Samara governor who fired an official over a rock?
It's just a rock. Fired.
So it was he who demanded to raise the standard of communication with the people. He says it's hard to regulate, but it's possible for all employees to switch to a more polite and proper way of addressing fellow citizens. Well, the Volgograd governor won't be happy about that. His deputy, Ivan Inozemtsev, caused a drunken scene at a bar in St. Petersburg back in mid-October. But instead of being punished, he got respect. Governor Filimonov wants to punish those who filmed it, but praised his deputy.
In conclusion, I would like to thank the first deputy governor of the Vologda region, Ivan Borisovich Inozemtsev, for working together with his colleagues, particularly Mazin.
Alexei Sergeyevich conducted a very important specialized training exercise in the field of regional security. This is truly a serious issue that deserves attention and high praise from my side. Thank you very much, Ivan Borisovich. All the more so because each of our colleagues keeps revealing new talents. In particular, Ivan Borisovich has become an unrivaled kung fu master who wields the traditional weapon, a chair. I, nevertheless, would like to emphasize once again that all of us, men...
You are all men, but you seem to be missing something manly. Fought for Putin, got wounded, came home, and Putin didn't give an award. That's already a standard story for Russia. But what's not standard is the way a veteran of the so-called special military operations survives in the Orenburg region. The man is originally from Uzbekistan. He came back from the war for rehabilitation. But he has nowhere to recover. He has no relatives in Russia, and as for the SVO fighter himself, he couldn't secure decent living conditions for himself after being wounded. Fortunately, kind people gave him shelter. So now he lives in a bathhouse at some acquaintance's place.
Regarding my appeal to you for help and about the scoundrel, this is how he lives. I let him stay in my bathhouse. He's living in my bathhouse. Borya, a man recovering from a wound undergoing rehabilitation. He signed a contract in the Kvarkino district, received Russian Federation citizenship, but he has neither housing nor registration. Here's a gas stove, and over there is my gas-heated bathhouse. We heat it up, it gets warm. We have repeatedly appealed to the Kvarkino district administration for help with registration and housing, but everywhere we've been refused.
There's no money for the military, but there is money to produce toy drones shaped like Geranias, which explode on impact. They're all going crazy over there. And finally, the unhinged Russians. They're all over the world. And even when they're given medical help abroad, they still tell people how things should be done properly. In Russian, I don't even have any comments on this. Watch until the end.
Does it matter to you what nationality your doctor is? Yes.
I'm actually not Russian.
Then why did you make an appointment with me?
Because that was the only available slot.
And what didn't you like about me as a doctor?
People stare at me.
Why are you swearing?
Because I won't motivate myself with Russians for any reason at all.
But I will with you. You came in, I examined you, diagnosed, prescribed treatment. I asked if you speak Russian.
How you do everything in your daily life.
You do. I came in and you raised your voice.
I did raise my voice.
At the end, I asked you if everything was clear, and you started insulting me based on my nationality. I didn't
start to insult you.
Insult you. You simply state the fact, and you are not actually you. Well, yes, I really can't fix that, unfortunately.
It's just unpleasant for me.
What can I do? Are there any other questions?
Actually, there are no more questions about what we discussed.
Did you understand the treatment plan she prescribed? It's nothing the plan.
This plan will not do anything for me, because I will not follow it.
You saw my photo on the website from the start, my name. When... I can't always be in a perfect situation, I don't think so. Well, about me? Let me tell you a little bit about myself.